instantly recognisable, one of the biggest tracks to ever come out of jungle drum and bass. Ray Keith, Terrorist, under the name Renegade, Moving Shadow, 1994. That piano, incidentally, is out of an M1 keyboard, which featured on hundreds of tracks back in the day. It still does now and again. First time I heard this was DJ Rap played it, Club Desire in Club UK, Wandsworth, South West London. Here comes the bass. The re-space. Ray's going to tell you why it's called the re-space. If you were in a club right now, the place would be going mental. And here come the drums. Now, one of the things that made this track so outstanding was the way that at the end of every bar, the drums go. And I used to work in Boogie Times at the time, and the amount of people that came in and say, "What's the tune?" It goes, you know. And so it was really recognisable, and massive track. I went to Brick Lane to talk to Ray about it because when I'm doing, trust me, I was there 1994 at the moment, and when I saw this track was in the track listing for 1994, I knew I had to go and speak to Ray because it's just such a massive tune. And I went to Brick Lane, talked to Ray about it. We were interrupted loads and loads of times by just people walking past talking about drum and bass. We get lost in nostalgia, but I've edited out the interruptions, so apologies for the jumpy cuts. Anyway, over to Ray.
Hey, thanks, nice one. Have a good weekend, bro.
I love the videos too, the little...
That's what this is.
Oh, nice.
Right, Ray, I'm on Brick Lane with the legendary Ray Keith.
Thank you very much.
We're here to talk about Terrorist. Ray, off you go.
So back in the day, man, I just wanted to smoke and date the chick that I was dating and make dubs and play out. And basically I made that dub in 4 hours. So it was just a quick thing.
And so Nookie engineered that, right?
Well, basically I used to go to his mum's house, in his mum's pantry, which was the side room, and he had 2 Sony speakers from his dad's hi-fi, and basically we went in there and just knocked it out. We sort of smoked, knocked it out within.
What? Because you wanted to get back to the missus, so you
I just wanted to go out and play some dubs and smoke some weed, and that was it. Like I had a specific time, and in those days, as you know, like I wasn't engineering. You had an allocated 4 or 5 or 6 hours where you had to have your samples and you got ready,
right,
and you did your stuff. So an interesting thing about that tune is that I met 2 of my heroes is Smith and Mighty.
Okay.
I didn't realise that they were from Bristol, but I used to buy a lot of their stuff back in the day, and also Massive Attack.
Okay.
So there were in Renegade Terrorist. There's a bass line and it goes boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
But Smith and Mighty did a version of Anyone Who Had a Heart.
Okay.
And they used a similar type of bass line. And
right.
when I told him that inspired me to make the tune, he went, fuck off. And I was like, no, seriously. And also, we were kids born from the 80s.
Right.
So we replayed the piano.
You were born in the 80s, right?
Well, no, we grew up in the 80s. We're born in the 60s. Well, that'd be telling my age. But we were born and conceived in the 60s, grew up in the 80s. You're right, my bro.
I didn't even say that.
No worries, bro.
Maybe you see the big boss.
Yeah, exactly.
See him.
And it's nuts, isn't it? How many people we've met. Got a shout out Offer. Got a shout out Steve, the original people that built Brick Lane.
We're sitting on Brick Lane and we've seen so many people walk past in the last few minutes.
It's just been nuts.
Anyway, listen. So the bass line in that, the other bass line, the Reese bass line. Did you sample that from someone? I mean, I know
yes,
I know I'm not the only person that sampled Terrorist, the Reese bass.
Yeah, they probably everyone sampled it off of me, but the original tune was by one of the masters of Detroit techno, Kevin Saunderson.
Right.
But there was
And the track was called
Reese. And
that's why we call it Reese.
But there was a keyboard that you could get that sound from called the Prophecy keyboard, and I actually ended up buying one and then selling it. And actually, that sound is a preset in the keyboard.
Okay.
But I actually sampled it from him, and the Amon drums, I took that clean off of Mantronics.
Okay.
The Mantronics break. Do you remember the loads of the break beats?
Yeah.
There's a small snippet on there. And also, there was 2. There's that, and there's the one on NWA.
Okay.
I took that, and then we programmed it to make it sound like it is today.
And
that.
you know, and on the track it's got the rhythm of the kicks at the end of every.
Well, what we used to do is we used to run the break, and then we used to put a kick and snare underneath it.
Okay.
And then basically that would kind of round off the sound, so you had the weight of the kick and the
Advanced.
snare.
That was advanced technique.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that till about 6 months ago.
No, but you know what? Funny you should say that. I think one of the, I mean, I did a lot of remixes in the 90s. We were like,
You were the king of remixes, weren't you, mate? I mean, we're here to talk about Renegade Terrorist. It was like, if you need a drum and bass remix or a
come
jungle
to me.
remix,
Yeah.
you go to Ray Key.
But-
And I used to work in Boogie Times. We'd get every few weeks.
Did you?
Yeah. On Saturday afternoons, yeah. And every few weeks you'd get a Ray Keith remix, and you would just know this is going to absolutely smash
So-
it. There's the Mayhem one.
Thank you.
You know, Martin Eichen.
Yeah, that was
There's
a
that
big
one. I mean, there's just so many.
But the one that I looked back most recently and looked at technically,
Yeah.
and actually, you know, because the thing about it is, Zing, you're a bad man producer. We never look
Thanks,
back,
mate.
do we? We do our shit, and then we're looking for the next thing.
Yeah, but
Maybe even enjoy what we do and take the time to share.
sometimes
Like
you
maybe
look
now
back-
we're doing it.
Sometimes you look back and you listen and you think that sounds alright.
Actually, that sounds all right. Because we're always looking to do something else as producers. You want to better yourself. But what I'm saying is, when I did the remix of Physical,
Right.
now that shit was tight. Because
Right.
I listened back to that now the other day and I was like, fuck. We really put our heart and soul in the production, the way it changed.
I
'Cause-
mean, but for me, there's like four other remixes that are just as good. So for you, that was one. There's the Burning Up one. That was a big remix, wasn't it?
I remember Randall playing that, but it was the way people used to mix it, because we wanted to have that hardcore techno feel to it. That's when Gavin and I done it, and you got the rough and the smooth. Do you know what I mean?
Who's the
But
rough and who's the smooth out of you and him?
he's the smooth and I'm the rough, without a doubt. He's always, he's like, you can't push the levels like that, and I'm like, yes you can. And recently we did a takeover, Dread Recordings on Rent, and we were standing in the corridor, we looked at each other, and I looked at him and I went, I think it's time we got back in the studio, you know. And he was like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, because he's making some amazing music. Because everyone struggles, you know, like the music business is hard and unforgiving, and you've got to be so thick-skinned, Ben. No, but there's
Or just thick. I think I'm just thick, not thick-skinned. So, Renegade Terrorist. Was there any tunes that were inspiring you at that time?
Basically, I made that tune because that was my version of dub, and I just got sick of people just sampling any old reggae tune.
Right.
So
there's a sample just on the start of that whoop whoop noise, and that is on that.
So that was
on the record, isn't it? I've got it.
Yeah.
Sample.
So that was my interpretation to everyone of like, well, this is jungle, but it just doesn't have to be ripped out of some reggae tune. That was my version of dub.
Right.
And it was just my interpretation of dub at the time. I was just like, well, I wanted to make something to prove to everyone that you could make something still with the elements of reggae and dub, but it just wasn't a straight rip. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. And so where was Nookie's house?
That was in Hitchin.
Hitchin. So you were in
his mum and dad's house.
Dad's parlour. Is it in the parlour?
No, the pantry.
The pantry. You were in the
Yeah,
pantry.
so it was
in
like
Hitchin.
it was no bigger than this. It was really small, and yeah, I mean, we had an amazing relationship. We made so many tracks together. I've remixed so many tracks, and he was my right hand man. He could read what I wanted to paint. But he never made it easy. He was like, no, you've got to play it on the keyboard. You've got to do this, and he really did push me. So I thank him for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those iconic collaborations, isn't it? You and Nookie.
Yeah.
Like some of the,
Thank you.
without him, your stuff wouldn't have been the same. But without you, it was just.
Yeah, it was. I think we've brought balance, and it was a great partnership. And I think some, to go that long and have so many tracks, successful track, and I just loved it. Groove Rider played my first remix ever, 1992.
Who was the first person to play Terrorist? Who did you give it to first on dub?
Do you know what? I'd always give it to Fabio and Groove Rider, Frost and Brian, Randall and Kenny. They were my people.
Right.
They were like my hardcore. I'd give it to them, and then.
What was the reaction like at first? Did you realise it was going to be such a big tune?
Do you know what? I
It's
always used
unusual,
to.
the arrangement's unusual, isn't it? Normally you get a tune and there's drums on the start, but this has just got the piano, the dub noise, the bass, the drop.
Yeah, I just wanted to make. You know what? Oh, this is another thing. That tune is inspired by one of the greatest producers of all time, which
Thanks,
is
mate. Great, and that's it, Renegade Terrorist.
Derek May.
Right, okay.
Strings of Life.
Okay.
Because Derek came in the shop and I knew him really well.
That's a big
and
tune, isn't it?
listen, I said to him, "How did you make that?" And he went, "Yo, man," you know, he went into his whole philosophy of it, and I was like, "One day, I want to make a fucking tune like that. I want it to stand the test of time, and I want it to represent what we were at the time." Does that make sense?
Right, yeah,
because
yeah.
I'd already been, you know, we were already established house DJs, 88, 89. Before that, I played hip hop and soul, rare groove and jazz. So we'd had those instrumental moments where it geared up and we'd moved up. But him, that was one of the inspirations of making that tune.
That's it, Ray Keith, Renegade Terrorist, one
Man, I
of the
think-
biggest drum and bass jungle tunes of all time.
Thank you. That's
Absolutely
very kind of you to
smashed
say
it.
that.
It's one of those ones, isn't it?
It's good to see you.
Let's hug on camera, Ray.
It's good to see you.